Hi everyone, a big warm welcome to today's Altcoin Bible. I'm going to be covering a few extra cryptos today because I think some of them look very, very similar, and I just want to show you a broad range. I'm going to be looking at Pepe, Arbitrum, Matic, Stacks, and one other that escapes my mind right now. It doesn't really matter. Let's crack straight in. First of all, I just want to quickly mention that a lot of what we're seeing here today really depends on what we're going to see in the US with the Federal Reserve's CPI data and the core CPI data. And it looks like stocks are positioning really well, that it expects a downside surprise, or at least meets forecast, which is still down. But if it surprises even further to the downside, crypto is very well positioned just to take off. And Bitcoin is going to lead the charge through 32K if that is the case. Let's crack straight in because I want to cover some charts for you guys. All right, so the three that are my one to watch, and I just want to, again, show you guys what I'm seeing and just my thoughts, because the last few times we've done the Altcoin Bible, a lot of the charts look the same. So if it does happen to be the case, I'm going to show you a few just so you can get how I'm looking at charts and whether you can overlay them in your own analysis there. But let's look at Stacks, and I really like Stacks. I've said that a few times, just by the fundamental narrative as well, because it's essentially the layer 2 that's built on Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin runs, which we know it's going to, first, if we break through the 32K, Stacks is going to get a bit of a proxy kick up as well, and it could outperform a lot of other altcoins. So I've just got this very clear downtrend line. It takes the main peaks that there and over here. Now Stacks has really reclaimed. This is the 4 hour. It's taken out its 200 4-hour 200 moving average on the 4 hour, if I can get that out, and the 20 as well. So it's looking really, really nice here in terms of a bottom being formed. This sort of inverse head and shoulders, this dip down and this sort of climb out looks really, really nice. I'm watching this level here though with Stacks confluent with this volume support, so 0.68, and also the 100 moving average on the 4 hour. So if it breaks that, comes back down to support, I kind of expect a very similar type of action to this over here. So as it broke out of this huge downtrend earlier in the year, and it just blitzed up again for a gain of what was that, about 60%. It broke out of the downtrend line, so it broke out, came up, hit the 100 around here, then actually came back to retest the trend support. And I'm looking over here, looks pretty similar in my view. It breaks up, probably cracks the 100, comes back down, retests the 100, and then maybe retest the trend line. But I can see it definitely grinding if it breaks out here, just doing that sort of motion and cracking out. But we're just going to have to watch it, and that's exactly why it's one to watch. But that pullback is in line with hitting this volume support here as well, and just using that as that platform to roll high. So I'm watching Stacks very, very carefully. Momentum indicators, RSI looks really good on the 4 hour. Stock RSI looks a little bit toppy here, so it could just look to cool off a little bit, maybe come back down. If you're looking for a buyer, as a buyer on Stacks, and I know I am, I'm looking potentially for a bit of a flush, not a flash crash, but just a nice pullback. If Bitcoin shows a bit of volatility, breaks back down to the lower 30Ks, I'd expect the 200 here to get hit at 65 cents, and maybe the 20 at 64. Generally, these moving averages tend to get hit multiple times in these kind of moves out, and it's finding resistance here on the 50. So that's what I'm looking at with Stacks. Let's move on to Arbitrum, because very, very similar, but just a bit of a different overall setup. I've really liked Arbitrum over this period, to be honest, because it has shown a great deal of relative strength, just holding up in this this sort of area here on this volume cluster. Broke down a little bit here. This is pretty indicative of most altcoins and Bitcoin generally, that it's it's ranging, it's chopping up and down. There's no decisive break. So unless we have a clear move out of that, or below this again, right now Arbitrum's just doing this thing. But what I really like is it's just consolidating. The moving averages are coming up, but retakes this. I'll just get rid of that line that I've just drawn, and I'll zoom in just a smidge. If you can retake the 20, this blue line here, the 20 moving average, and breaks out of this downward trend line at the same time, it does run into this volume support here, but I think it can break up pretty quickly. But the prime zone for me is that come back down, re-hit the maybe 15-cent area, find a bit of support, maybe dip down, scare a few people, but grab the liquidity that's in here before it blitzes out of there. So absolutely one to watch in my view. You probably could, if it's finding resistance here at the 20, I think this on the daily at least, the 50 and this area 1.10, $1.10, $1.11 still will present pretty good value if it gets rejected here and it has a bit of downward move. RSI going sideways, so nothing really showing much there. Once these sort of areas and these trend lines break, you will see that momentum increase. Another one is Bitcoin Cash. It has had an incredible run. I haven't covered Bitcoin Cash really at all. It's just really not on too many exchanges these days. It's lost a bit of that narrative, but it is now on EDX, which is that brand new exchange in the US that is backed by Fidelity and Charles Schwab. So proof of work coins like Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, well, previously Ethereum, at least those four, and Bitcoin, those four are listed on EDX. So they're getting a bit of a head start in the US in terms of that thought in investors' mind that they've got regulatory compliance, they're not securities. So EDX has listed it. And ever since it did list it, it just launched from here. Same with Litecoin. So they're cryptos you still want to watch, but 213%. But to be fair, liquidity in Bitcoin Cash is incredibly low in terms of the order book. So any real big move, if there's any kind of demand increase or if there's a big seller, it can move with a lot of volatility. So that's exactly what we saw. But just back to Bitcoin Cash, it's consolidating reasonably nicely. And if I was looking at this, initially I thought to myself, gee, this doesn't look too flash. I mean, there's a bit of a bearish divergence over there that kind of came into play. Well, not really. It's just, you can just see it's consolidating with these lower highs ever down this trend line, and the RSI just completely collapsing. If we saw a second peak that came up, up here and then down, and this one was higher than the last, and then you saw the RSI just plummet like that, a definite bearish divergence. But so far, this just seems to be consolidating reasonably nicely and going sideways. And we're seeing the RSI begin to tick up. It's almost like this is reset, and it has not lost this volume cluster. It's still in here. So if it cracks this level, I'd expect Bitcoin Cash to fly yet again. That's how I'm seeing it, because things just seem to have reset, and it looks like to be pretty good. So again, one to watch. All right, let's crack into Cherry Ripe. So Matic, I'm going to just quickly show you why it is my Cherry Ripe, and it's just simply because of the trend. It looks really, really good. And to be fair, I could have picked, a multitude of other coins. We haven't looked at Matic for a while, and I just saw it here, and it's good to every now and then just show you very simply what a positive trend looks like. So you can just see here a real clear higher low structure. So that low there, higher low, up here, you can just see very clearly that that's a channel upwards like that. And then the higher highs as well. So that's a really positive trend. You got the low, high, 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 low, high, high, or sorry, high, 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 low, high, 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 low. You get the point. So this here is in a really nice position to come back, potentially, hold this level and maybe blitz up high, hit the next volume support here and this moving average on the daily, which I think is pretty plausible. Or we have come back down here, hit this kind of area here as well with this wicks, and you can overlay Fibonacci retracements as well to kind of give you an idea of where things might crack. This is a bit of the golden pocket in here, to be honest, with that huge volume support in there. So that's a really interesting area you could look at accumulating. But just generally, if Matic is looking to blitz up out of here, like a lot of cryptos have just been slowly grinding and moving up, a bit like how Stacks found a bottom and then moved higher. This 200 here is at that just under $1. Sellers are going to come in real heavy at around the dollar mark because it's also the breakdown area over here. Still a bit of uncertainty around Matic, but the technicals look pretty good. And this is on the daily. Also, the RSI is in a really nice uptrend in line with price. Stock RSI looks okay. Could probably go a little bit higher. Hasn't crossed over yet. When that does cross over and we see maybe some bearish divergences come out, I'd get a little bit nervous with Matic. But so far, so good. It's positive trend. It's Cherry Ripe. That's how we like it. So yeah. Also, I probably mentioned there as well that, now that it is above this, 70 cents area, there is a big gulf in volume. So this really should, if you can hold here above this moving average, this can really fly up to that next level, as we just said. So 85 cents seems really likely to me because there's just no volume in here. There's no sellers, no buyers. It has no real historical inclination to really see too much resistance until 77 cents. Sometimes with the volume profiles you do have to zoom out a little bit more to get a bit more information because it's only taken for what it sees on the chart. So yeah, this area here is going to be just a little bit higher. It's going to be a real problem to crack. But so far, Matic looks okay, but expect maybe some pullbacks in this positive trend. All right, let's get into my danger zone. This is a great case of a bearish divergence now playing out. So this is Pepe. So I think this frog is a bit boiled here, or at least it is boiling, and it's going to find a floor, and it's probably going to come back pretty hard. But right now, I just want to point this out, which is that second peak is higher than the last. What's the RSI doing? So if you just move on over to where we're doing, you can see that second peak is just fractionally lower than the first. So it's not a major divergence, but it's definitely there on the chart. It's quite pronounced on the price chart. It's not as pronounced on the RSI, but it's still there. And now we're sort of seeing that really start to fall away and move into the divergence and figure out how much momentum it has to the downside. Right now, the RSI is trying to curl back up, but what concerns me is has that bearish divergence. It's fallen from that point, 24%. That's pretty good, but this is a low liquidity altcoin, so this should really come down to some lower levels, in my view, and it's stuck under resistance here. If this can reclaim, that 16,400 area, so up here, and sort of stay up there, then I think this probably had its correction and whatnot. But so far, it's breaking down. It's under that volume support. It's under the 20. It's looking like it wants to test the 50. And because it has no previous price action, we just don't get a read on moving averages. Maybe if we go to the 4-hour, we'll get a better idea. And of course, as always, like Bitcoin, if Bitcoin blitzes, so these charts kind of get invalidated. This will just move up. Yeah, under resistance just really wants to get back above those moving averages there, 16,400, 16,500. RSI doesn't look too bad, to be honest, on the 4-hour. That almost is, so this is where you can look on the higher time frames and see something different than you would by going just down one more level. So that's actually hidden bullish divergence, where the momentum is actually, the sellers are increasing, but price is actually gaining in strength. And that's a really good sign that a trend is actually continuing. So if this trend was going up, then this might be just the reset, the correction before it goes higher. So currently it's still my danger zone for things that I've just outlined on the daily. But if you go down to some of those lower price levels, you can, kind of see something different. So, I'd probably have, in my view, look for these volume supports down at 13,400. So roughly, 8 to 10% lower than here, which is a really good buy entry. Any lower than that, you start to get a little bit concerned, 1,300, 18, all that kind of stuff. But don't think it gets lower than that 1885 in this little move. But yeah, if it breaks up here, then I'm probably re-entering above on confirmation. It's always safer to do because you gather that the trend is high, it's got a bit of strength, and you can really see it. So guys, hope you've enjoyed this altcoin Bible. As always, I have an absolute blast. Have a great day, and we'll catch you again next time. Bye.